My name is Clara, and I turned 18 years old on a Tuesday afternoon in late September. The day started like any birthday should, with my family gathered around our small dining table in our house just outside Portland, Oregon, and a homemade chocolate cake sitting in the center, with 18 candles flickering in the dim light. I had no idea that by the next morning, everything I believed about my family would shatter. The gift my grandmother gave me that day was supposed to change my life for the better. Instead, it revealed who my parents really were and what they were willing to do to get what they wanted. Before we dive into what happened next, I want to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever received a gift that changed everything, hit that like button and subscribe to hear how this all unfolded. Have you ever had to choose between your dreams and your family? Stay with me, because this story is about to take a turn nobody saw coming. The birthday party was nothing fancy. We never did fancy in our household. My mom, Linda, had baked the chocolate cake herself the night before, and I could still smell the sweetness lingering in the air when I came downstairs that morning. Blue pastel balloons were taped to the walls, the same decorations we had used for years pulled out of storage every time someone had a birthday. My dad, Tom, was setting up the camera on the tripod, trying to capture the moment like he always did. My older brother, Derek, 22 years old and still living at home, was slouched on the couch scrolling through his phone. But the person I was most excited to see was already sitting at the table. My grandmother, Margaret, 75 years old with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, had driven over from her apartment across town. She was wearing her favorite cardigan, the soft green one she always wore to special occasions, and she was smiling at me with that knowing look she sometimes had, like she could see right through to the future. We sang Happy Birthday. I blew out the candles and made a wish, the same wish I had been making for years. I wished to go to college to study engineering, to build things with my own hands and my own mind. I wished for independence, for freedom, for a future that belonged to me. Then came the presents. My mom handed me a wrapped box, and inside was a soft wool sweater in deep burgundy. It was beautiful, and I could tell she had spent more than she should have on it. My brother tossed me a small package without looking up from his phone. Wireless earbuds. Practical. Typical Derek. Then my grandmother reached into her purse and pulled out a simple white envelope. No wrapping paper. No bow. Just a plain envelope with my name written on the front in her careful handwriting. I opened it slowly, not sure what to expect. Inside was a single piece of paper. A check. I pulled it out and looked at the number written in blue ink. $100,000. I stared at it. My hands started shaking. I read the number again, certain I had misread it. But no, it was real. $100,000 made out to me, Clara Thompson, signed by my grandmother. The room went completely silent. My mom stopped cutting the cake. My dad lowered the camera. Even Derek looked up from his phone. I looked at my grandmother, my eyes wide with shock. She reached across the table and took my hand in hers. Her skin was soft and warm, and her grip was firm. "This is for your future, Clara," she said quietly. "For your education. I have been saving this money for a very long time. Since you were born, actually. I never went to college myself. I wanted to, but my family could not afford it. So I worked in factories, in offices, in stores. I saved every dollar I could, and I promised myself that if I ever had a granddaughter, I would make sure she had the chance I never did." Her eyes were serious now, almost fierce. "This money is for you. Only you. For your tuition, your books, your future. Promise me you will use it for your education. Promise me, Clara." I felt tears running down my face. I nodded, unable to speak. "I promise," I finally whispered. "I promise, Grandma." She smiled then and pulled me into a hug. I felt her arms around me, thin but strong, and I held on to her like she was the only solid thing in the world. When I pulled back and looked around the room, I noticed something strange. My mom was staring at the check with an expression I could not quite read. Her lips were pressed into a thin line. My dad was rubbing the back of his neck, his jaw tight. Derek had gone completely still, his eyes fixed on the piece of paper in my hand. The warmth that had filled the room just moments before seemed to drain away. The air felt colder, heavier. My dad cleared his throat and forced a laugh. "Well, that is quite a gift," he said, but his voice sounded strained. "You are a lucky girl, Clara." My mom said nothing. She just turned back to the cake and started cutting slices with sharp, precise movements. Derek stood up and walked out of the room without a word. I looked down at the check in my hands, this piece of paper that represented my entire future, and I felt a small knot of unease forming in my stomach. But I pushed it aside. I told myself I was imagining things. This was my birthday. This was supposed to be a happy day. That night I lay in bed with the check on my nightstand, staring at it in the darkness. I thought about all the things it would pay for. 4 years of tuition at the University of Washington, where I had already been accepted into the engineering program. Room and board, textbooks, lab fees, everything I needed to build the life I had always dreamed of. I fell asleep with a smile on my face, feeling for the first time in my life like I was truly in control of my destiny. I had no idea that downstairs my parents were already awake, sitting at the kitchen table in the dark, whispering urgently about what they were going to do. I had no idea the storm was already forming, and that by morning everything would change. I fell asleep that night believing my future was finally secure. I had no idea the storm was already forming downstairs. I woke up late the next morning, later than usual. The sunlight was already streaming through my bedroom window, bright and warm. I stretched, feeling content, and reached over to touch the check on my nightstand just to make sure it was real. It was still there. Still real. I got dressed and headed downstairs, expecting to find my mom making breakfast like she always did on weekends. Scrambled eggs and toast, orange juice, the smell of coffee filling the kitchen. But when I walked into the kitchen, everything felt wrong. My parents were sitting at the table, but there was no breakfast, no coffee brewing, no plates or cups or silverware. Just my mom and dad sitting across from each other in complete silence, their faces drawn and serious. They both looked up when I entered, and I saw something in their eyes that made me stop in the doorway. Something cold. "Good morning," I said cautiously. "Is everything okay?" My dad gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit down, Clara. We need to talk." I sat down slowly, my heart starting to beat faster. The check, I thought. This is about the check. My mom folded her hands on the table in front of her and looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Not quite angry, but not kind either. Something in between, something that made my skin prickle. "Clara," my dad began, "we need to talk about that check your grandmother gave you." I waited, saying nothing. "Your mother and I have been talking, and we think we need to discuss what you are planning to do with that money." I felt a flash of defensiveness. "Grandma said it was for college, for my education." "We know what she said," my mom cut in, her voice sharp. "But Clara, we are your parents, and we need you to understand that family takes care of family." I felt confused. "What do you mean?" My dad leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "Clara, we have not been completely honest with you about some things. We have been trying to protect you, to keep you from worrying. But the truth is, we are in a difficult situation right now." "What kind of situation?" "Your brother lost his job 3 weeks ago," my mom said. "He has credit card debt. A lot of it. Almost $30,000. He is drowning, Clara. And we need to help him." I looked back and forth between them, trying to process what they were saying. "I am sorry Derek is struggling," I said slowly. "But what does that have to do with my college money?" My dad cleared his throat. "We were hoping you might consider lending Derek some of that money, just to help him get back on his feet. He wants to start a business, a small auto repair shop. It would be a fresh start for him. And he would pay you back, of course, with interest." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "You want me to give Derek my college money?" "Not all of it," my mom said quickly. "Just enough to help him. maybe 30,000. You would still have 70,000 left for school. That is more than enough. But Grandma said this money was for my education, I said, my voice rising. She made me promise. Your grandmother does not understand how families work, my mom snapped. She has always been selfish with her money. She could have helped us years ago, but she never did. And now she gives you all this money, and you are just going to hoard it while your own brother suffers. I felt tears stinging my eyes. This is not fair. This is not what Grandma wanted. We are your family. Clara, my dad said, his voice low and intense. We raised you. We fed you. We put a roof over your head for 18 years. Is this how you repay us? By refusing to help your brother when he needs you? I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I need to think about this. Think fast, my mom said coldly. Your brother needs an answer soon. I walked out of the kitchen, my whole body shaking. I went back upstairs to my room and locked the door behind me. I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the check on my nightstand, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. This could not be happening. This was my money, my future. My grandmother had given it to me for a specific purpose. How could my parents ask me to give it away? But at the same time, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered, what if they are right? What if I am being selfish? Derek is my brother. Family should help family. I picked up my phone and called my best friend Jenna. She answered on the second ring. I told her everything. About the check, about my parents' demand, about the guilt I was feeling. Clara, Jenna said firmly when I finished. That is your money. Your grandmother gave it to you, not to your parents, not to your brother, to you. If you give them even a penny, they will never stop asking. But what if Derek really needs help? Then your parents should help him, not you. You are 18 years old, Clara. You have your whole life ahead of you. Do not let them guilt you into giving up your future. But what if they hate me? If they hate you for protecting your own future, then that says more about them than it does about you. I hung up the phone and sat in silence for a long time. Jenna was right. I knew she was right. But knowing something and feeling it are two different things. That night, I could not sleep. I lay awake listening to my parents arguing in their bedroom down the hall. I could not make out the words, but I could hear the anger in their voices. And I knew it was about me. About the money. I felt like I was being pulled in two different directions. On one side was my family, the people I had loved and trusted my entire life, asking me to help them. On the other side was my future, the dreams I had worked so hard for, the promise I had made to my grandmother. I wanted to be a good daughter, a good sister. But something deep in my gut was telling me that if I gave in now, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I wanted to be a good daughter, a good sister. But something in my gut told me this was just the beginning. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with text messages. 3 of them all from Derek. The first one said, Mom told me you are thinking about it. Thanks, sis. I really need this. The second one was longer. I know I messed up with the credit cards. I made bad choices. But I'm trying to turn my life around. This business could be my chance. Please help me. The third one just said family is supposed to be there for each other. I stared at the messages, feeling the weight of guilt pressing down on my chest. I did not respond. I did not know what to say. I got dressed and went downstairs. My parents were waiting for me again, this time in the living room. My dad was sitting on the couch and my mom was standing by the window. Derek was there too, sitting in the armchair with his head in his hands. They all looked up when I entered. Clara, my dad said, sit down. We need to have a family meeting. I sat on the edge of the couch as far from them as I could get. Your mother and I have been talking, and we want to lay out a formal proposal for you, my dad said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. We have done the math. Derek needs $40,000 to start his auto repair business. Not 30. We underestimated the costs. 40,000. My voice came out as a whisper. Yes. 40,000. He would use it for equipment rent on a shop space, insurance, initial inventory. He has a solid business plan. He has been researching this for months. I looked at Derek. He would not meet my eyes. And he would pay you back, my mom added quickly. In 2 years. With 5% interest. We would draw up a contract, everything legal and official. I felt like I could not breathe. You want me to give Derek almost half of my college money. We want you to invest in your brother, my mom said. This is not charity, Clara. This is an investment. You would get your money back plus interest. But what if the business fails? I asked. What if he cannot pay me back? There was a long silence. Then you would have helped your brother try, my dad said finally. Is not that what family does? I felt anger rising in my chest, hot and sharp. No, I said. No, this is not right. Grandma gave me this money for college. She made me promise. I cannot just hand it over. My mom's face hardened. We raised you, Clara. Do you have any idea how much money we have spent on you over the years? Food, clothes, school supplies, doctor's appointments, everything. And now when we ask you for one thing, you refuse. This is not one thing, I shot back. This is my entire future. Derek finally spoke. His voice was quiet and bitter. So I am just supposed to lose everything? I am your brother, Clara. Do I mean nothing to you? I looked at him. Really looked at him, and I saw something I had not noticed before. He looked older than 22, tired, defeated, and I felt a stab of sympathy. But then I remembered what my grandmother had said. This is for your future, Clara. Only yours. I stood up. I need some air. Where are you going? My mom demanded. Out. I grabbed my keys and walked out the front door before they could stop me. I got in my car and just drove, no destination in mind. I ended up at my grandmother's apartment building 20 minutes later. She answered the door in her bathrobe, surprised to see me. Clara. What are you doing here? I stepped inside and the whole story came pouring out. Everything my parents had said, everything they wanted, the guilt they were trying to make me feel. My grandmother listened in silence. When I finished, her face was hard as stone. I knew this would happen, she said quietly. I knew it the moment I handed you that check. I saw the look in your father's eyes. What do you mean? Your father has never been good with money, Clara. When he was younger, I lent him money 3 times. For a car he crashed 2 months later. For a business venture that went nowhere. For credit card debt he racked up buying things he could not afford. He never paid me back, not once. He always had an excuse. And eventually I stopped lending. I felt my stomach twist. Why did you never tell me? Because I did not want you to see your father that way. But now you need to know the truth. Your parents are not asking you to help Derek. They are trying to use your college money to fix their own financial problems. And if you give them a single dollar, they will never stop asking. What should I do? She took my hands in hers. You need to protect this money. Right now. Today. Go to the bank. Open a savings account in your name only. Deposit that check. Make sure nobody else has access to it. But what about Derek? What about my parents? If Derek really wants to start a business, there are loans. There are investors. There are other ways. But this is not his money, Clara. This is yours. Your grandmother gave it to you. And you need to honor that gift by protecting it. I felt tears running down my face. They are going to hate me. If they hate you for protecting your own future, then they never really loved you. They loved what you could give them. Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. But I knew she was right. I left my grandmother's apartment and drove straight to the bank. My hands were shaking as I walked inside. I opened a savings account in my name only. I deposited the check. I watched the teller process it and hand me a receipt showing a balance of $100,000. It was done. The money was safe. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot for a long time, gripping the steering wheel, trying to calm my racing heart. I knew what was waiting for me when I got home. I knew my parents were going to be furious, but I had made my choice. I had chosen myself. I had chosen my future. I drove home slowly, rehearsing what I would say. But when I walked through the front door, I did not need to say anything. My parents were waiting in the living room, and the look on my dad's face told me they already knew. "Where have you been?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "The bank." And I deposited the check. Into my own account. My mom stood up, her face flushing red. "You did what I deposited it." I repeated, my voice stronger now. "Grandma gave that money to me for college. Not for Derek. Not for anyone else. For me." "You deposited it," my dad repeated slowly, "without discussing it with us." "I do not need your permission," I said. "I am 18 years old. It is my money." My dad took a step toward me, and for a second I thought he might actually grab me. But he stopped himself. "Do you have any idea what you have just done?" "I protected my future." "You have destroyed this family," my mom said, her voice shaking. "After everything we have done for you. After everything we have sacrificed. This is how you repay us." Derek appeared in the doorway behind them. His face was twisted with anger. "So that is it. I am just supposed to lose everything, while you go off to your fancy college and leave me behind." I felt my own anger rising to match theirs. "You are not my responsibility, Derek. I am sorry you are struggling, but that does not mean I have to give up my future to fix your problems." He slammed his fist against the doorframe. "Unbelievable. My own sister." "You are selfish," my mom hissed. "Selfish and ungrateful." "I am not selfish for wanting to go to college," I said, my voice breaking. "I am not ungrateful for protecting the gift my grandmother gave me. And if you cannot see that, then I do not know what to say to you." "Get out," my dad said suddenly. "If you are not going to help this family, then get out of my sight." I stared at him, shocked. "What?" "You heard me. Go to your room. I do not want to look at you right now." I turned and ran upstairs, tears streaming down my face. I locked my bedroom door and collapsed on my bed, sobbing. Downstairs, I could hear my parents arguing with each other, now their voices rising and falling in angry waves. I heard my dad shouting. I heard my mom crying. I heard Derek slamming the front door as he left the house. And I lay there in my room alone and terrified, wondering if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. That night, I heard my parents arguing until 3 in the morning. And I realized this was not about helping Derek. This was about something much deeper. I did not come out of my room the next day. I stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything that had happened. My phone kept buzzing with messages, but I ignored them. I could not deal with any more guilt, any more accusations. On the third day after the bank deposit, Derek sent me a text. "Can we talk, just you and me?" I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Where coffee shop on Morrison Street. 1 hour." I almost did not go, but something told me I needed to hear what he had to say. Maybe there was still a chance to fix this. Maybe he would understand. I met him at the coffee shop, a small place near downtown. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee in front of him. He slid one toward me as I sat down. "Thanks for coming," he said quietly. "What do you want, Derek?" He looked down at his coffee cup, turning it slowly in his hands. "I need to tell you the truth. About everything." I waited. "I do not actually need the money for a business," he said finally. That was a lie. My stomach dropped. "What?" He took a deep breath. "Mom and Dad are in serious financial trouble, Clara. Like really serious. They refinanced the house twice in the last 5 years. They have $60,000 in credit card debt. Dad lost his job 6 months ago. You did not know because they have been hiding it. They did not want you to worry. Dad lost his job." My voice was barely a whisper. 6 months ago. "Yeah. He has been going out every day pretending to go to work. But really he is just driving around applying for jobs, getting rejected. He is 52 years old and nobody wants to hire him. Mom is working part-time at the grocery store, but it is not enough. They are 3 months behind on the mortgage. The bank is threatening to foreclose." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Why did not they just tell me? Pride? Shame? They are your parents, Clara. They are supposed to take care of you, not the other way around. But they are desperate. And when Grandma gave you that check, they saw it as a way out. They figured if they could get 40 or 50,000 from you, they could save the house. And you? Me, I am a mess too. I did lose my job. I do have credit card debt. But I was just the excuse they used to try to get your money. They thought you would be more willing to help your brother than to bail out your parents. I felt sick. So this was all a lie. All of it. Not all of it, he said, looking up at me. They do love you. But they are drowning Clara. And desperate people do desperate things. Why are you telling me this now? Because I could not live with the lie anymore. And because you deserve to know the truth before you make any decisions. I sat back in my chair trying to process everything he had just told me. My dad had been unemployed for 6 months. My parents were about to lose the house. And they had tried to manipulate me into giving up my college fund to save them. Have you told them you are telling me this? I asked. No. They will kill me when they find out. But I do not care anymore. This has gone too far. I stood up, leaving the coffee untouched. I need to talk to them. Clara, wait. But I was already walking out the door. I drove home in a daze. When I walked in, my parents were in the living room. They looked up surprised to see me emerge from my self-imposed isolation. Derek told me everything I said without preamble. The house, the debt, Dad's job, all of it. My mom went pale. My dad closed his eyes. Why did you not just tell me the truth? I asked, my voice shaking. Why did you lie? Because we are ashamed, my dad said, finally, his voice breaking. I am your father. I am supposed to provide for this family. And I have failed. I lost my job. I could not find another one. I have watched our savings disappear. I have watched us sink deeper and deeper into debt. And I did not know how to tell you. I did not want you to see me as a failure. So you tried to take my college money instead. We were desperate, my mom said, tears streaming down her face. We did not know what else to do. The bank is going to take our house, Clara. We are going to lose everything. I felt a confusing mix of emotions. Anger, yes. But also sadness, pity, fear. I sat down on the couch across from them. How much do you need to save the house? 50,000, my dad said quietly. That would cover what we owe, plus give us a few months to catch up. I took a deep breath. I cannot give you $50,000, but I can help. Differently. How I will loan you $15,000. Not 50. 15. With a legal contract. You will pay me back over time. But there are conditions. What conditions, Dad? You need to stop pretending you are going to work. You need to file for unemployment if you have not already. You need to look into financial counseling. Mom, you need to see if you can get more hours or find a second job. Both of you need to sit down with a financial advisor and figure out how to actually fix this problem, not just put a band-aid on it. 15,000 is not enough, my mom said desperately. We need more. 15,000 is what I am offering, I said firmly. Take it or leave it. But I am not giving up my entire future because you made bad financial decisions. My dad stood up, his face reddening. 15,000. You have $100,000 sitting in the bank, and you are offering us 15,000. We are about to lose our home. Then you should have been more careful with money, I said, standing to meet his gaze. You should not have refinanced the house twice. You should not have racked up $60,000 in credit card debt. Those were your choices, not mine, and I am not going to pay for them. You are our daughter, my mom sobbed. How can you be so heartless? I am not being heartless, I said, my own voice breaking now. I am setting boundaries. This money is for my education. Grandma gave it to me for a specific purpose, and I am honoring that. But I am willing to help within reason. 15,000, with a contract. That is my final offer. My dad shook his head slowly. We are your parents. We gave you life. We raised you. And this is how you treat us. This is how I protect myself, I said quietly. Because if I give you 50,000 now, what happens in 2 years when you are in trouble again? What happens when Derek needs money? What happens when there is always another crisis? I cannot fix your problems, Dad. You have to fix them yourselves. The room fell silent. My mom was crying quietly. My dad was staring at the floor. Derek, who had followed me home and was standing in the doorway, said nothing. Think about my offer, I said. You have 1 week to decide. And then I walked upstairs to my room, closed the door, and sat on the edge of my bed shaking. I had just said no to my parents. I had set a boundary. And even though every fiber of my being was screaming that I was a terrible daughter, I knew I had done the right thing. I sat in my car outside Grandma's house, unable to move. The people I loved most had become strangers, and I had to make a choice that would change everything. I did not hear from my parents for 4 days. The house was silent, except for the sound of doors closing and footsteps in the hallway. We avoided each other like strangers living under the same roof. On the 5th day, I went back to my grandmother's apartment. I needed to talk to someone who would not make me feel guilty for protecting myself. She made tea and we sat in her small living room. I told her everything. About Derek's confession. About my parents' debt. About my offer of $15,000. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. You did the right thing, she said finally. Then why do I feel so terrible? Because you are a good person with a good heart. But Clara, listen to me. I have watched your father make bad financial decisions his entire life. He is my son, and I love him. But love does not mean I have to enable him. I learned that lesson the hard way. She reached over and took my hand. When your father was 25, he asked me for $5,000 to start a landscaping business. I gave it to him. The business failed in 3 months. He never mentioned paying me back. When he was 30, he asked for $8,000 to buy a car because his credit was too bad to get a loan. I gave it to him. He totaled the car 6 weeks later driving drunk. Again, no mention of paying me back. When he was 35, he had $20,000 in credit card debt. He came to me crying, begging for help. I paid it off. 2 years later, he had even more debt. She paused, her eyes distant. I finally realized I was not helping him. I was making it easier for him to avoid facing the consequences of his choices. So I stopped. And he did not speak to me for 2 years. But eventually he learned. Not completely, but enough to survive. You think I should stick with 15,000? I think you should stick with whatever you feel is right. But do not let guilt make your decisions for you. Your father and mother are adults. They made choices. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of those choices. I spent the rest of the afternoon with her. She helped me draft a formal loan agreement with payment terms and interest rates. She helped me research financial counseling services. She reminded me that I was not responsible for fixing my parents' lives. When I got home that evening, my dad was waiting in the living room. His face was haggard, older than I had ever seen it. We accept your offer, he said quietly. 15,000. With the contract. I nodded, trying to keep my face neutral even though my heart was pounding. Okay. But I want you to know something, he continued. Your mother and I talked. Really talked. For the first time in years. And you were right. We have been making bad decisions. We have been living beyond our means. We have been ignoring our problems instead of facing them. He rubbed his face with both hands. I have been lying to you about having a job because I was ashamed. But I filed for unemployment yesterday. I am going to start seeing a financial counselor next week. Your mother is going to increase her hours at the store. We are going to sell one of the cars. We are going to figure this out. Good, I said softly. And Clara, he said, his voice breaking. I am sorry. I am so sorry for trying to take your future away from you. I was desperate. But that is no excuse. You worked hard for that acceptance letter. You deserve to go to college. You deserve to chase your dreams. And I should have been supporting you, not trying to drag you down with us. I felt tears stinging my eyes. Thank you, Dad. He stood up and pulled me into a hug. I am proud of you, he whispered, for standing up for yourself. even if it was against me. My mom came downstairs then. Her eyes were red from crying, but her face was calmer than it had been in days. She walked over and joined the hug, and the three of us stood there in the living room holding each other. "I am sorry too," she said quietly. "I let my fear turn me into someone I am not proud of. You are my daughter. I should have been protecting your future, not trying to steal it." We spent the next hour going over the loan agreement. I explained the terms. They signed. I transferred the $15,000 to their account, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. Derek moved out the next week. He found a room to rent from a friend and got a job at a mechanic shop across town. He sent me a text that just said, "You did the right thing. I needed to grow up." We have not talked much since then. Our relationship is not what it used to be. Maybe it never will be. But at least we are not enemies. My parents kept their word. My dad found a part-time job at a hardware store 2 months later. It did not pay much, but it was something. My mom got promoted to assistant manager at the grocery store. They started seeing a financial counselor every week. They sold the second car. They cut up their credit cards. Slowly, painfully, they started to rebuild. And I started preparing for college. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. And even though it hurt, even though I felt like the villain in their story, I knew I had made the right choice. 2 years have passed since that birthday. I am 20 years old now, sitting in the library at the University of Washington, taking a break from studying for my mechanical engineering midterm. The campus is beautiful in autumn. The leaves are turning gold and red, and students are scattered across the quads studying or laughing or just enjoying the afternoon sun. I am wearing a sweatshirt with the university logo on it, something I still feel a little proud about every time I put it on. My first 2 years here have been everything I hoped they would be, and more. The classes are hard, but I love them. I love the problem sets that keep me up until 2 in the morning. I love the lab work where I get to build things with my own hands. I love the feeling of understanding something complex, of watching an equation transform from chaos into clarity. I have made friends here. Real friends who do not ask me for money or make me feel guilty for having dreams. My roommate Sophia is studying architecture. My friend Marcus is in computer science. We study together at the library, get coffee between classes, and stay up late talking about the future we are building. I work part-time at the campus library shelving books and helping students find resources. The money is not much, but it helps. And more importantly, it makes me feel independent. I am not just living off my grandmother's gift. I am contributing. I am taking care of myself. The money my grandmother gave me has been carefully managed. After tuition, room and board, textbooks, and fees for my first 2 years, I still have about $52,000 left. I got a partial scholarship my second year, which helped. I live frugally. I cook my own meals. I buy used textbooks. I do not waste money on things I do not need. But more than the money, what my grandmother gave me was something priceless. She gave me the courage to choose myself, to set boundaries, to understand that loving someone does not mean sacrificing everything for them. My relationship with my parents is better now. Not perfect, but better. We talk on the phone once a week. I go home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. The conversations are careful at first, both of us afraid of saying the wrong thing, but gradually they have become warmer, more genuine. My dad did find steady work eventually. He is managing a small hardware store now, making decent money. My mom is still at the grocery store, but she likes her job. They paid me back $3,000 of the $15,000 I loaned them. We both know it will take years for them to pay back the rest, and honestly, I am not sure they ever will. But that is okay. I did not loan them the money expecting to get rich off it. I did it to help them get back on their feet. And they have. Derek and I text occasionally. Short messages, nothing deep. He is still working at the mechanic shop. He has a girlfriend now, someone he met through work. He seems more stable, more grown up. We will probably never be as close as we were when we were kids. But maybe that is okay too. Sometimes relationships change. Sometimes distance is necessary for healing. My grandmother is still my hero. She is 77 now, still living in her apartment, still sharp as ever. I visit her every time I come home. We have tea and talk about my classes, my friends, my plans for the future. She tells me stories about her life, things I never knew before, about the dreams she had when she was young, about the sacrifices she made, about the regrets she carries. Last month, she told me something I will never forget. She said, "Clara, the greatest gift I ever gave myself was learning to say no. Not because I did not love people, but because I loved myself enough to know that I could not save everyone. And neither can you." The path to healing was not easy. At first, I felt guilty every single day. Guilty for saying no. Guilty for keeping my money. Guilty for choosing myself over my family. There were nights when I could not sleep, when I lay awake wondering if I had made a mistake, wondering if I was selfish, wondering if I had destroyed my family. But slowly, with the help of the free counseling services on campus, I learned to let go of that guilt. I learned that setting boundaries is not selfish. I learned that I am not responsible for fixing other people's mistakes. I learned that love should never require you to destroy yourself. I learned to forgive my parents for what they did. Not because they deserve forgiveness necessarily, but because holding on to anger was eating me alive. They were desperate. They made bad choices. But they are human, flawed and scared and trying their best just like everyone else. And I learned to forgive myself. For the times I doubted. For the times I almost gave in. For the times I felt like a terrible daughter. I am not terrible. I am just someone who chose to survive. Now, when I think about that 18th birthday, I do not feel angry anymore. I feel grateful. Grateful that my grandmother had the foresight to give me that gift. Grateful that I had the courage to protect it. Grateful for the hard lessons I learned about family and love and self-worth. I still have dreams. Big dreams. I want to graduate with honors. I want to work for a company that designs sustainable infrastructure. I want to build bridges and buildings and systems that make the world better. I want to use my hands and my mind to create something that matters. And I know now that I can achieve those dreams. Because I chose myself. Because I set boundaries. Because I refused to let guilt and obligation destroy my future. I close my textbook and look out the library window at the campus below. Students are walking to class carrying backpacks and coffee cups, laughing and talking. They all have their own stories, their own struggles, their own dreams. And I realize that I am one of them now. Not the girl whose parents demanded her college money. Not the girl who had to choose between family and future. Just Clara. A student, a dreamer, a survivor. My phone buzzes with a text from my dad. "Just wanted to say we are proud of you. We love you." I smile and text back. "Love you too, Dad. It is not perfect. Our relationship will probably never be what it was before. There is still hurt there, still distance. But there is also love. And maybe that is enough." I think about all the people who might be watching this, who might be facing their own impossible choices, who might be feeling guilty for wanting to protect their dreams, who might be torn between family and self. And I want to tell them what I learned, what I wish someone had told me when I was 18 years old and holding that check in my shaking hands. Saying no to people you love is not selfish. Sometimes it is the most loving thing you can do. Not just for yourself, but for them. Because sometimes people need to face the consequences of their choices. Sometimes people need to learn to save themselves. Your dreams are not less important than someone else's crisis. Your future matters. Your education matters. Your goals and hopes and plans matter just as much as anyone else's. Family should lift you up, not hold you down. Real love does not demand that you sacrifice everything. Real love supports you, encourages you, wants you to succeed. Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges to healthier relationships. When I set boundaries with my parents, I was not pushing them away. I was creating space for all of us to heal, to grow, to become better versions of ourselves. You can love someone deeply and still choose yourself. These are not mutually exclusive. Love does not mean martyrdom. It does not mean destruction. It means caring for someone while also caring for yourself. I pack up my books and get ready to head to my next class. As I walk across campus, backpack slung over one shoulder, I feel something I have not felt in a long time. Peace. I am exactly where I am supposed to be. I am building the future my grandmother dreamed of for me, the future I dreamed of for myself. And I did it by learning one simple truth. Sometimes the hardest person to save is yourself, but you are worth saving. Your dreams are worth protecting. Your future is worth fighting for. That $100,000 check taught me something priceless. It taught me that I am worth fighting for. And no amount of guilt, no amount of tears, no amount of family pressure will ever make me forget that again. Because at the end of the day, I am the only one who has to live my life. I am the only one who will face the consequences of my choices. And I chose to bet on myself. And that made all the difference. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between helping your family and protecting your own future? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, if you have ever felt torn between love and self-preservation, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more real stories about life, family, and the hard choices we all have to make. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone who needs permission to choose themselves. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope it helped you in some way. I hope it reminded you that you are not selfish for having boundaries. You are not cruel for protecting your dreams. You are just human. And you deserve a future as much as anyone else. Take care of yourselves. Choose yourselves. And remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no.